Alright, response video to be disingenuous. Yeah, that should be her name. I mean, really, it's just so dishonest. So now she's playing out this game as if she's arguing with a philosophy of non-procreation. This philosophy is called anti-natalism. And she wishes, mine is called ephilism, which means that life itself is fundamentally flawed and we don't have a right to play God, and therefore we shouldn't be just endorsing the replication of a DNA molecule because it happened. Because it happened doesn't mean it should continue to exist until we come up with a rational argument. It doesn't make any sense. But anyway, to perpetuate it. So she wants to now focus on this endgame strategy of how do we bury the corpse? How do we do this? How do we, she wants to just take the conversation about the subject, which people have to arrive at the conclusion first before they have to worry about the implementation. And she doesn't give the working up to the conclusion any merit or credibility, and yet she wishes to converse about how to bury the corpse again. So, I mean, yes, you could do that in war. You could, before going to war, you could just sit there and focus on the fact that, well, you're going to kill young men, you're going to kill young men, young men will die, young men will die, and you could just keep saying those words as if, that was going to change the fact that you had to go to war with the Nazis. And so, yeah, if you wanted to sit there and disable the effort to do the honorable right thing and save the world from Adolf Hitler, yeah, you could sit there and naysay that way. You could use emotionalism, and that's all you're doing. I mean, this is just so ironic that your previous video you point out that these are little discussion elements that you should recognize that you're cheating when you're playing with. And here you are playing with the emotional issue, the end game strategy. How do we sterilize the earth? Yeah, that's what it comes down to. Euthanize it. So yeah, you want to play with that merely because it's just not a fun subject, right? Again, this entire subject is not fun. Recognizing that we're not special, that we're not gods, that we're not inevitably going to do the right thing and accomplish something good, and that we might potentially have World War III that'll be worse than Hitler and World War IV. Recognizing all that is unpleasant. And you want to play. That's all. You're just going to play with the negative element, and that's all you're going to do. And that's all. Whatever. That's your choice. I can't do anything about your hypocrisy and your duplicity. It just is. So anyway, I'll answer your question, but you never answer any of my questions. I've been asking for 3 years now for somebody to write a paragraph, just one stinking, lousy, rotten paragraph, explaining what God university you went to, and how you acquired your authority to decide for somebody else that they would like what you like. And that's what procreation is. How you feel entitled to invest for them, to make these fundamental choice for them, even though you know that might go all wrong and all bad, and you can't, there's no undo button. Once you make the mess, it's the mess. And it'll have to, you could say, well, I'll just wait till it's miserable enough and then I'll give it a gun so it can blow its brains out, and say, well, that's a victory. No, that's still a huge failure, and one you can't undo. I mean, like World War II. It's a huge failure. Yes, we beat Adolf Hitler, but it's a huge, 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 huge failure. So, yeah, where's my one paragraph? One paragraph explaining why, without using the word I want or I need or I desire, and explain where you derive the authority to impose, to play games with these sentient beings. Why don't you give me a paragraph explaining why you have a right to enslave the biosphere to your human ambition? A paragraph. Too much trouble? Yeah, it's too much trouble. So anyway, all my questions have been left unanswered, so, you think you have entitlement. It's just so outrageous. But anyway, I'll answer your stupid question. So go ahead and ask your stupid question, I'll answer it.
I've had a 40-minute response to my 7-minute video from...
Right, so she's complaining about a 40-minute response when she argued that life is infinitely complicated. That there's all these complications. It's way too complicated. It's way complicated. It's not just complicated. It's complicated. But it's not as complicated as 40 minutes. I should have been able to cover it in 20 or 15 or 10. Because, we're only talking about the meaning of life. I mean, shit, yeah, you should be able to cover that in 10 minutes. Jeez. I mean, people are insufferable. I mean, you really are insufferable. I go to the trouble to explain how, like, look, you're being pretentious. You're violating your own rules. I go to the trouble to give you a more complete reaction. Okay, not just cliches, And this is what you do.
Amendum. And the reason it's 40 minutes long is that he spent most of the time talking about how ancient I am and how condescending I am.
And that's just a lie. So I mean, again, so what's the point of this? What is your expected reaction from me? I didn't even mention your age beyond the fact that you have pointed out that you had a child, and it's just deducible. All right? I mean, is that mentioning your age because I said you had a child in the 80s? That's mentioning your age? And that's somehow a crime anyway? I mean, talk about silly humans, but I mean, fuck. People can't even locate your age within a range, within like 15-year range. That would be offensive to you if they like just said, oh, she's in the category of, 40-ish or something. That would be a crime. Oh, amazing. So anyway, and then yes, the rest of it I was just giving you. You're sitting there pointing out all these crimes we've committed, and yes, I provided a defense for against your accusations and pointed out how most of your accusations are duplicitous hypocrisy. Yeah, and it takes a little bit of time to do that, but it was totally appropriate.
So I didn't really get the information I wanted.
Yeah, because you didn't want to look for it, but it was there, okay? The answers were there, you just ignored them. And so, again, you're just pretending it wasn't in the video? Is that it? You're going to make the argument that I didn't answer your questions in the video? Is that your accusation? And what? What am I supposed to say? You're impossible. This is just impossible logic you're applying. This double standard.
I'm going to ask a very succinct one-question video. This is to any red button ethicist.
It took you 3 minutes to do one question, huh? Oh, I guess you're going to add on some stuff, huh?
I want to ask two, but I'll ask the first one.
Oh, please.
How would you wipe out all life on planet Earth? How would you euthanize? That is what amendment.
Science. Oh yeah, it applies science. Like, how would we get to the moon? You see, they didn't figure out how to get to the moon until it was time to go to the moon. And then they had this, when they started thinking about this, they said, oh, we got this fuel problem because, we can't stop at the moon. We can't, if we land on the moon, we can't get back because we don't have any fuel to get, to restart the momentum engine, to get our momentum back, to get back our acceleration. So what are we going to do? And then they figured, oh, look, we can do that circle-y thing and then drop a little blob onto the planet and then, shoot the blob back up to the capsule. And yeah, it's going to require some more intricate technology, but I think we can do it. And then they did it, didn't they? Yeah. It's like the nuclear bomb. They didn't have one in their back pocket, and so they had a Manhattan Project, and then they figured out how exactly to do it. So I might speculate that there's lots of physics out there. And to tell you the truth, there's this big giant moony thing flying around us, and it ain't going to take much to knock it out of its little centric orbit and make it into a deteriorating orbit. And yeah, that's going to do it right there. But you got lots of stuff right here on Earth. You got zillions of megatons of oil in the ground, and if you just put an oxidant in the oil and then light it with a little nuclear match, lots of ways to foobar the Earth beyond recovery. Okay, it will not go to the hospital and get better. So it's just a technical question, and all it takes is a little bit of imagination and certainly some redundancy in your plans. I mean, you could, tomorrow I could sit there, if some genetic laboratory really wanted to do it, they could make green algae that is highly toxic. that just makes a few incredibly toxic compounds. Even nicotine. We could make nicotine green algae. And, theoretically it could spread across the entire surface of the ocean. And that will kill most biological life on Earth. And then if you do the rest of this stuff, yeah, it's just not going to. So, but anyway, you want to get into the gory little details. So when someone proposes legislation to give people like a humane death, you should go into all the gory details of how they're going to stick the needle in, and then the chemical poison will go up to their brain, and it'll numberize their hypothalamus, and then it'll do this, and then the breathing will cease, and they will go and be dead. And yeah, you can just try to make it sound worse than it really is, right? I mean, you have two choices. I mean, look, life is so preposterous that I could make the argument, that cats are better off getting killed by cars than living with you people, because you people will torture them to death before they die. They'll die really long and really slow, because you'll keep rushing it off to the vet to get something else done to it to maintain its existence so you can pet it and say, love, love, happy, happy. And that's just a tragic, disgusting, horrid truth of life. But I don't beat you over the head with that shit, do I? Even subjects like vegetarianism, I don't beat you over the head with the fact that it's absolutely futile. It's only something we do for principle, and that's it. It means absolutely nothing in the context of this huge amount of suffering on planet Earth. You don't get that? And even if we actually believed, if I actually believed that meat eating was necessary or vital to human beings, that it was even a natural thing to do, I could simply argue that, yeah, we can harvest animals from nature before they're going to die. Why not? Why not harvest the salmon after they've spawned? It's still edible. It might not be the perfect salmon meat because it's kind of been wiped out. All the fat's been wiped out of it, but it's still damn good. There's lots of ways to harvest animals that is no different. They're going to die anyway. That's the game of nature, They all die anyway. And it might be just a little bit more humane to put a bullet in their head and rather than let them die of some horrid, awful disease. But I mean, that's the practical reality, right? But sometimes there's no point in just wallowing in those emotional things, because the argument has to be understood intellectually.
Wants us to call it euthanize, give a good death to every living thing on planet Earth.
The point is to end the procreation of everything on Earth. That's right. So you're just sterilizing the planet. So you just can theoretically we can wipe them out one at a time. There's lots of approaches to take, but yes, realistically, being roadkill isn't too bad. Being killed within a few seconds is probably a better death than nature's going to give you.
I know that atheists think they have resolved the why question. They think there is no reason to ask the why question because they have resolved it.
Well, this is just a silly argument. Yes, we've resolved it, but there's no point in talking about implementation because we are so far from convincing all you psychotic, sadistic motherfuckers that you're living a lie and a delusion. Yeah, we have to do that first. I mean, really, you have to build the car before you can drive the car, kind of thing. Get it?
I won't even go into their reasoning. It's generally that they think that is the only way that we can stop suffering. This suffering on planet Earth is to euthanize all life here.
Right, and your counter argument is that we have lots of hope that we can just reconfigure all the human beings into loving little benign creatures that watch TV and eat muffins, and there's no animals in nature eating each other. None of the animals compete anymore, and all the lions lie down with the lambs, and everything is all Garden of Eden. Oh, that's right. Yes, you're religious, aren't you? Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
How, in very short answers, would you do that? How would you give a good death to every living thing on the planet Earth?
Yes, I would vaporize them, ideally. Yes, ideally they would get vaporized in a millisecond. And I think there's lots of ways to do that. We haven't even, like I said, we haven't even come close to even trying to work this out. And a little bit of effort, you're going to figure out that there's mechanisms right here, like I said, right here in the mechanics of the Earth itself that you can take advantage of to even liquefy, loviate the surface of the Earth. Lots of things you could do.
If you want to go into why, again, we've all heard it a number of times, but fine, do that. Is it easy, do you think, to get rid of all life on planet Earth?
Yeah, well, look, we got Mars on one side of us and Venus on the other side of us, right? And, very extreme conditions, especially Venus. And we know the basic nature of Venus is the greenhouse effect. And so, yeah, you duplicate the greenhouse effect, you got temperatures on the surface of Earth that are 1,000 degrees. I think everything's going to be in pretty big trouble.
And I keep wanting to ask why, but I'm not going to. I'm going to leave that.
Yeah. Why would you not enjoy the suffering? Why can't we just keep this zombie corpse alive forever and walk the earth forever? Why do you want to kill the zombies? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, yeah, obviously, yes, you think you're accomplishing something. I get that. All right, but you haven't demonstrated it. And you certainly haven't demonstrated to the satisfaction where I'm going to say you're allowed to play God. You're allowed to decide for somebody else that your silly ambitions are great ambitions and that I'm the idiot for not having them. Yeah, well, I'm sorry. You haven't proven that I'm an idiot because I don't have your silly notion of purpose, accomplishment, and reason to do this another few million years. But you're not even going to make it out of the next, 2 decades? You got 2 decades if you're lucky. And then you're going back to AK-47 wars. And it's on you. I'm sorry, but yeah, it's on you. Okay? Because you're saying, let's keep trying. And your trying will get you AK-47 hell. You're condemning the human race and the rest of the ecological environment, because the environment will degrade it even more, to a dystopia that I think is beyond your imagination, just how horrid it's going to be. And you're sentencing the human race to it with your silly, unrealistic God playing. Your incompetence is going to produce that result.
Because I don't want a repetitive answer, but how? How exactly?
How exactly? Again, with decisive technical manipulation and redundancy. Yes. Again, I mean, we haven't even tried to work this out. How many nuclear bombs we could make? How many, every 2 square miles we could place them? Even that would do it. But the mega bomb, no, you can make bombs as big as you want, and you can dig them pretty deep into the ground. So you explain to me what 10,000 conventional nuclear warheads buried a mile deep it would do to the planet Earth. I don't know exactly, but I think it would give it one hell of a motherfucking hemorrhoid. I mean, the hemorrhoid of doom for the planet Earth.
And if you can't answer these questions, they're simple. Then maybe it's time to move.
It's one question, and it's not that simple, okay? There's about probably 59 times the speed of light squared different ways you could resolve the question. There's lots of technical ways to eradicate a mile of biosphere, and that's what you're talking about. A little thin layer of biosphere circling the Earth. And that's it. it's not that complicated in terms of a science project. There's lots of ways to get the job done.
Move on beyond red button aphorism and try to think of other strategies that might work. Most people have moved on.
Well, who cares? Most people, so the argument from most people again, well, most people believe in angels. Most people do a lot of silly, stupid stuff. So again, not my problem. I don't have to deal with the most people, the popularity argument. I obviously dealt with that a long time ago, because I'm really old. And a long time ago, when I had the intelligence of a 7-year-old, I could figure out that I'm not going to agree with most people, because most people are imbeciles.
Beyond red button aphorism, but I seem to want answers. Maybe it's because...
No, I don't think that is anywhere close to the truth. You seem to be a preposterous propagandist who will provide no accountability for your obnoxious arrogance. Once again, you tell me, without giving me a religious answer, what is the defense of the biological experiment? Would you initiate the biological experiment on another planet? Would you? Would you create great white sharks on Mars sharks, and think yourself a benevolent god? If you created nothing more than what is in the ocean, take the mammals out of the ocean, and you created the life that is in the ocean on another planet, would you think yourself a brilliant creator, a great god? Would you? Explain it to me. Explain to me the function.
I worry about suffering. I don't like red button aphorism, and yet I do worry about suffering. That's why I'm a vegan. So I would just like...
Well, I'm just saying, there's just no point. I mean, no offense, but there's just no point in Band-Aids. You either cure this disease or you are plagued forever. This zombieism, this. I'm sorry to inform you, but it's a negative sum game. It's a game built on creating need, okay, and then you have to resolve it, and there's no way to resolve it efficiently, short of electrodes and iPods glued on your head that give you a fantasy life, because you're not going to be able to make the real world, okay, satisfy need machines. Need machines are intrinsically consuming. They're intrinsically going to take out of the environment. That's what something in need does. You just don't get it. Alright? It's not, there's no such thing as a positive energy in the universe. It just isn't. It runs on negative potential. But anyway, that's a whole theoretical argument.
A concise answer. And if you can't give a concise answer, maybe we should do what Peach and a number of other people have suggested and just move on and not give any attention, especially to amendum, because maybe this is a futile pursuit.
Oh yeah, right. I play your lousy, stinking, cruddy, insulting videos. I read your lousy, rotten, insulting comments. I sit there and give long and detailed answers to why I believe what I believe. And you have the temerity to pull this bullshit. As if somebody hasn't responded to your fucking bullshit, your lousy, stinking accusations, your veiled propaganda, your manipulations, and your distortions. I mean, it's just disgusting. Answer my questions, God player. What gives you the authority? Oh, nature gave you a uterus, therefore have uterus will fart out babies. So you take your marching orders from a DNA molecule, it gave you the right, it gave you license. A molecule gave you license. And that's all the authority you need. You don't have to make a rational argument. You don't have to make a logical argument. You can just rely on the fact that, well, nature knows what it's doing. And I'm supposed to say that's satisfactory. That's good at that. Oh, that's such a great answer. Nature knows what it's doing.
I think it probably is. Take care.
Get what you deserve. Unfortunately, you're going to drag a whole bunch of other sentient beings into the hell, the dystopia, the evil, the mush, the muck. That's what you're going to do. Yep. merely because you will not acknowledge that you must play this game within rules of reason and logic. That you are not, these emotionalisms and these emotional responses are not going to solve the problem. Your band-aids are not going to work. There's no band-aid to fix the national debt. This isn't. And there's no band-aid to fix the basic, crude, selfish nature of the biological organism. You have to make it hungry. And if you do that, it will feed. You're just not getting any of it. Anyway. It's enough, I think. Insufferable. And yet I must suffer it.